Welcome back to Autoimmune Adventures. Today we're honored to have a very special guest and a dear friend with us, Hana Birch. Hana has lived with rheumatoid arthritis for close to 50 years, as well as other autoimmune diseases, and she brings a wealth of experience, wisdom, and hope to our conversation today.
Hana is not only an advocate and author, but she's also a proud wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and her greatest joy is her grandchildren. She treasures and appreciates her wonderful family. She is the author of Hana's Hope, a book of poetry that provides light and encouragement for others walking through life with chronic illness. We are excited to learn more about Hana's journey and the inspiration behind her book. Welcome, Hana.
So, Hana, we'd like to start this off. We often use the analogy on our podcast of chronic illness as a mountain climb. And some days we're making steady progress, and other days we're catching our breath and figuring out our next step. What mountain do you find yourself on right now? And are you still climbing? Have you reached a new milestone, or are you taking a break?
I need to take a break because I had my grandkids over on the weekend, and so I just need to rest to recover. But it's hard to say because like even though with one, like you get one under control, I have several autoimmune diseases, and you get one under control, and then the other one decides to flare up and act up, and then you got to work on that one. And so it's like kind of like gardening, where there's always a patch that needs weeding and needs fixing, and then you get that patch thinking, stop trying to get attention, and should be trying to force my knees straight. And of course I'm screaming and crying in pain because it hurt. And I'm like, no, it's not in my knee. It's not in my head. It's in my knee. Because she kept trying to tell me it was all in my head. And I was like, no, it's not. But yeah, she wouldn't believe me. And like, even like every time the doctor would tell them that I had asthma or said anything about my asthma, she'd beat me after we got home. How dare you make the doctor think that? And I was like, I didn't do anything. I just did what he told me to. But she wouldn't believe any of it, and thought I was just doing all of it for attention, which I wasn't, because I in reality don't really like attention on me. And whenever it is, I feel nervous, and so I just laugh a lot, because that's what I do when I'm nervous or embarrassed. I laugh. And yeah, so it was kind of hard, because I got to the point where I felt like it wasn't something you talk about, because nobody's going to believe you.
I can see how that would be really hard. And we are glad that you eventually got out of that living situation. And it's awful that you were in that. One of the things that we talk about a lot here is how trauma can actually play a role in us getting autoimmune diseases. They've done a lot of studies that show that to be the case. So as you're looking back on those early days with your rheumatoid arthritis, it seems, I mean, would you agree to me listening to your story? It seems like
because when my boys were little, like really little, they did a test where they took their blood and they took my blood and did this really fancy test with it. And they told me, they said that my rheumatoid arthritis was not in my DNA. If my sons get arthritis, it's going to be when they're old and gray. That mine was because of my bones being damaged really severely multiple times in my youth. And I know, so thereby I knew when they said that, the bozo gave me rheumatoid arthritis. All this pain and everything I'm dealing with is thanks to her.
Yeah, and that's tough. And I'm sure a lot of people out there listening, unfortunately, we know there are listeners out there who probably experienced abuse in their young years too. But I think that we can all agree that trauma definitely has a significant impact on how and when Because I would say, I mean, there are people that get it younger, but I would say your rheumatoid arthritis also exhibited at a fairly young age. But like you said, given that you were a preemie and that you had been passed around through foster care and adoptions and various things, you were living with a high level of stress and with people that were also being physically abusive, and I could totally see how that would come to pass.
Yeah.
And so have you found later in your life, because I know some people find it helps their symptoms if they get counseling. Have you found that because I know you and I have talked before and you have had that experience of counseling, do you feel personally that that has been something that's helped you?
Mm, yeah, it has helped me. I wouldn't say that it made my arthritis all better, because that's impossible. I mean, I've had it since I was diagnosed when I was 12. And before that, I kept falling down and nobody knew why, because I'd be walking and there's nothing there, so I fall. And the doctors explained to me it was because my brain gets the message, this is too much pain, can't handle it. And so then my brain sends back, release, no weight on that. And so then my knees would give out and I'd be either in the middle of the road, in the middle of the hallway or the sidewalk, or I'd fall down the stairs. That happened several times. And I just learned that basically my legs were not reliable. But now with my bones being so thin and everything, it's like I was telling my therapist that when I was younger, falling wasn't such a big deal, because I get bruised, I get hurt, but it's okay. I'll survive. I'll get through it. But now, because of my bones being thin, thanks to some of the medications I've had to take, if I fall, it's really dangerous, because I could break a hip, and that's very serious. And so it's a lot more stressful, falling is. And so I can't take the chances that I could before. I have to be a lot more careful. And just, okay, I can't count on my legs, so don't even go there,
I think that over the years, you have gained a perspective that I find very inspiring, because as a person who was a foster parent, to hear that you were treated that way in foster care hurts my heart. But your brave vulnerability is something I really appreciate, Hannah. It's something I've always appreciated about you, is that you're willing to talk about the hard things so that you can help the other people who are going through them. It is not easy in life to go through what you've gone through and be able to arrive on the other side and still have hope, which is why I love the name of your book, and we're excited to talk about it here in a little bit. Yay, I'm excited. Okay, so over the years, how has your perspective on rheumatoid arthritis evolved from when you were a child, and what aspects of living with it maybe have become easier now that you understand what's going on? And what are your big everyday challenges?
Moving a lot of times, because it's so painful. As the years have gone by, the pain gets worse, and so your pain tolerance gets higher, and it's just hard to psych yourself up to, it's going to hurt, it's going to feel really awful, and so there's a part of you that just is like, oh, no moving, just stay still, but that's not healthy and you can't do that. And so just making myself move and get up and do things. When I had kids, it was I gotta get up because I gotta take care of the kids. But now all the kids are gone, and so it's like I gotta keep moving because I gotta keep my health up, because I made a promise to my grandkids and my kids, and I need to keep it. So those are my motivations to keep me moving, because it's so tempting just to be like, I'm feeling really good right where I am. As long as I don't move, it's going to be great.
Yeah, psyching ourselves up to get out of bed in the morning. I think that's a struggle that a lot of people with chronic illness have. But when it's arthritis, it's a lot harder. It's just a lot harder. So,
well, yeah, and I mean,
exactly.
just going to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom and it's a workout. I come back and I'm all sweating and I feel like I just did, aerobics for
Yeah.
30 minutes. And I just went to the bathroom. I remember at the hospital one time, I went to the bathroom and I came back. I came out of the bathroom and the nurse was like, "Hun, why are you that wiped out? You shouldn't be that wiped out. There's something wrong with you." I'm like, yeah.
Like chronic illness, I got it.
I've been living with this. I understand.
Well, and one of the things that I actually think might help some of our listeners too is that because you've had rheumatoid arthritis for so long and it has progressed, you went from, like you said, having trouble and maybe tripping and falling occasionally when you were younger, but you now have to use a wheelchair.
Yeah, I'm in the
Where was that transition for you? Like, where did you recognize when you were doing your everyday stuff? Because a lot of us talk about like ability aids, and whether it's, I know for me, it sounds silly, but because I have trouble bending and whatever, I didn't ever use a shower chair until I had to have one after my knee surgery. And after I had one, I was like, this is fantastic. I don't feel like I'm going to fall down and potentially get dizzy or hurt myself in the shower. And so even though my knees healed, I was like, I'm still using my shower chair because I have other health problems. And I think sometimes people get so worried about what other people are going to think that it's hard for them to make that transition and say, okay, I'm to a point now that I need this. I need a cane. I need a wheelchair. Like, what helped you get to where you were comfortable in saying this is going to actually make my quality of life better?
realizing that I couldn't go to Sam's with the family anymore if I didn't go in a wheelchair. It was just too painful. It was awful. It was really horrible. I couldn't participate with people on stuff. It's just, there was just no way that, because I had at that time I had already been going years with just bone on bone because there was no cartilage in the knee. And they tried cleaning it up thinking that would help make it grow back and last longer, but my body doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It never has. It's kind of like the rebellious teenager in that way. and so I had been going, every time I moved, every time I walked, it wasn't just the arthritis pain. I now had bone on bone causing me pain and grief as well. And so whenever I went anywhere, tried to participate, it was really, really miserable and hard. And it just got to the point where I couldn't unless I had the wheelchair. And so literally it was, okay, I have to do this. And there's no other choice here.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, doctor, I'll take the wheelchair now.
Well, and it's good. Yeah, it's good that you were able to figure that out, even though it is sometimes a hard thing to do. I know you and I have talked a lot about, because once you are in a wheelchair and you have to be in a wheelchair because you're to that point physically, you get a whole other set of challenges that I think a lot of people, I know, even including myself, even though I have chronic illness and I have a lot of problems, I didn't realize just how challenging certain kinds of travel, particularly air travel, could be until I was recovering from my knee replacements and had to use a wheelchair, and had a very not good experience at the airport with that. We'll just put it that way. But you and I know we're talking the other day, and I felt really strongly that this was a story that needed to be shared, because I think people don't know what they don't know. And if they're not experiencing themselves, they don't understand why accessibility is so important. So if you don't mind sharing the story we were talking about the other day when you were traveling overseas on the airplane.
My very first commercial airline flight ever. And it cured me of ever wanting to go anywhere again. Because so on the way there, it was 36 or 38 hours. I can't remember which way was longer, but so it's a 36 or 38 hour flight, and they wouldn't let me have the wheelchair on the plane. So I was sitting in the regular seats, and I have long legs, and my knees literally felt like they were going into the back of the chair behind me, even though they weren't tipped back or anything. My knees felt like they were going, and my knees were touching the back of the chair, and I felt like they were going into the back of the chair. And I kept doing like I'm doing with my wheelchair right now, like, adjusting, trying to push myself into the chair as far as I could, and it didn't make any difference. And after a while, my legs start feeling numb, and I can't feel my feet or my legs anymore because they're all numb. And when they did the layover things and they send the people in to clean the plane, they wouldn't let me get off because I'm in a wheelchair, and I guess that looks bad or something to some people. And so they had me just stay on the plane while the cleaning crew came through, which was kind of awkward because they're all trying to move fast, so you can't say anything to them or anything. And then when they're doing my seat, I had to lean forward so they could clean the thing change the thing behind me and everything. It was really awkward. But then, so back then I was taking medication that made me retain water really bad, which in one way it was good because I didn't have to go to the bathroom much, but I had to go to the bathroom one time during this big, huge, long flight. And my legs were totally numb and hurting, and I was so miserable, and I had to pee. And I was like, I need to use the bathroom, please. And they wouldn't let me have the chair again. And so Brian had to try to help me to maneuver to the bathroom and get to the bathroom. And so he helps me to the bathroom, and the bathroom's really small, so he can't even go in there to help me. And I had to hold on to the toilet the sink. I'm holding on to the sink while trying to pull my pants down. And then I finally get my pants down, and all I could do was just fall back onto the toilet because there's no bars or not anything to help support you either. So I just had to fall back onto the toilet, and I guess it made some noise or something when I did, because all of a sudden all the stewardesses are knocking on the door. Are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, just trying to go to the bathroom. And then to get up, I had to fling myself at the sink, catch the sink, and then pull myself up, holding on to the sink, and then try to hold on with one hand, up with the other, and then do the same thing on the other side. And then I knocked on the door. I need my husband back. And so then he came, opened the door, helped me back to the chair. And the whole way there and the whole way back, I was in so much pain. I had two choices. I could either scream like I felt like, or I could just cry. And so I just silently sobbed because it hurt so bad. And so I'm trying really hard not to make this a traumatic thing for people to see. But I get back to my chair, and the stewardess comes over and says, could you please stop crying? You're really disturbing the other passengers.
Of course, because that's really the
I'm not allowed to cry. I mean, that's what I was telling you. There are times I feel like the world expects me to be a robot. I'm not allowed to feel. I'm not allowed to have wants or needs or anything. I'm just supposed to be this robot, and I'm not allowed to speak either. I'm just supposed to be this robot that is there for when people need me and invisible when they don't.
It's interesting because we talk about how chronic illness is invisible, and when it shows itself, when it comes out and quits being invisible, it makes people really uncomfortable. But that says something about them, not us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to feel things. And we even live in a world now where people will say, feel your feelings. But sometimes when you do, when you let that pain show because you can't help it, you're not being an entertainer. You're not being a drama queen.
Mm-hmm.
You're simply in excruciating pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be, I don't know. I don't know that I even have the words to fully explain what I'm trying to say here, except to simply say, it's not fair. It
No.
is not fair to be in that kind of pain and then be told your feelings are irrelevant. Who cares? You're making other people uncomfortable. People need to get a reality check, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
If they were
and this,
in,
I was going to say, in the setup too of some of the things, airlines in some ways are a little better than they used to be, but they are very clearly not very handicap accessible.
No.
And especially for people that need to be in their wheelchairs and different things. And so the reason, like I said, you might hear Hannah's story there. And I know the first time she told me, I was like, oh my word, I was so frustrated for her. But we're not trying to like have it as rage bait here. We are literally saying we need to be aware of these things, because awareness is where we can help make change. And so some of you out there, I know there are some of our listeners that are also wheelchair bound, and I am sure that you have had similar uncomfortable experiences when you have had to travel. And for those of us that maybe haven't and maybe hadn't thought about it before, be a voice of advocacy for those people that are going through that, because I think sometimes our society gets a lot of people use the term, view ableism, where you forget that there are people out there who maybe don't have functioning legs or need that wheelchair or whatever it is. And it is not right to negate their feelings, nor is it right to not provide them a way to do things like travel, like any other person.
Mm-hmm.
So we bring that about because I think it's something worth talking about, because again, like I said, until people know about it, change can't happen. So
yeah, we find advocacy to be really important, and not just in the world at large, but even within our own homes. So Hannah, how do you communicate or advocate for yourself with your family and friends and maybe healthcare providers? What are some of the things that you do to help when you're struggling?
That's been a challenge for me, because I usually play down how I'm actually doing. And so even though I really work, that's something I've really worked on the past several years, is trying to be more honest with my doctors and stuff, because typically once they get to know me, they understand. And so that helps a lot, them knowing me. But before they know me, they say, oh, how are we feeling today? On a scale from 1 to 10, where's your pain at? The 10 being the worst, 1 being the least. Where's your pain at? And even though my pain is typically mostly maybe an 8 or a 9, I'll say, oh, a 4 or a 5, because I play it down, because I feel like I'm complaining if I be more honest. I feel like I'm like my neighbor that I used to walk when I was young, and when she would just cry and complain the whole time we were walking on the street, and I was just like, she was all alone, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want people to remember me being all, oh, it's so hard, and I don't want that. And so because of that, I think that kind of played a part in that I really play things down a lot. And so it really helps for people to know you, because then they know your signs. They know, like my kids told me, we know when you're hurting really bad because you get really quiet and you turn inward. And after they said that, I realized I do. I didn't realize that before. Because they're like, usually if people are talking, you'll join in the conversation, you'll be laughing, but when you're hurting really bad, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting there really quiet. And so they said that's how they know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of us, it's interesting because we talk on our podcast all the time about advocacy, but I will agree with you. There are times where I think we do it sometimes even without thinking, where we mask our true symptoms, just like you said, because we don't want to inconvenience people, or we don't want them to think that we're trying to be a drama queen or whatever. And I would say that even though there might be social situations where we do that and it's a little more understandable, I have found that it's beneficial for me to not mask my pain with my doctors. And like you said, when you have good doctors, that helps a lot. Because, you know, I'll be honest with, I went through a period of time where I was having some trouble with my lupus. I was having some really bad joint pain. And I had been, like you said, kind of playing it down with my rheumatologist. And then I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be honest with him. And so even though I was having a relatively good day when I saw him, I was like, you know, and he asked about how my pain had been. I was like, honestly, it's been really bad the last couple of weeks. The joints in my hands are awful. It hurts to move my fingers. And so then we actually had a really beneficial conversation about, hey, you shouldn't be hurting like that. Let's find a solution, you know, and we were able to work through it. Whereas if I had done the masking it, which sometimes, like I said, we have a tendency to do that just because we don't want to inconvenience people, you know. So I think there's definitely, and it is learning advocacy for yourself is definitely a lifelong process, I've found.
Yeah.
So
I'm still working on it.
yeah, aren't we all? But as you've been on your medical journey, what for you, because this might be helpful for people that have gone through similar things, but what have you found the most helpful for your overall lifestyle, whether it's medical treatments or maybe diet changes, mindset changes? What do you feel personally is the best thing that helps manage your symptoms?
Well, I have to say it's very easy when you're having a hard day with having health issues. It's very easy to get down on yourself and feel like nobody cares about me and I'm nothing. And because you look back on all the things you used to be able to do that you can't do anymore, which is a big no-no. And you start feeling like, oh, I'm no good anymore, and that kind of thing. And so for me, the thing that helps me get over that hump and get on with things in a better attitude and a better light is humor. I feel like that's what God gave us that for. It's one of those hidden blessings that helps you to see that if you can see the humor in situations and in yourself, then you know what? Maybe this isn't so bad after all. I can get this. I can still smile. It's just I'm doing it in a different way now. I'm moving in a different way now. I'm getting around in a different way. And it's the beginning. Like, I feel like, yes, I've had one life, but I feel like in that life, I've had several different lives. And being in a wheelchair was the start of one of those lives because the way I live, the way I do things, the way I function is totally different than when I had legs that worked. Well, they never really worked, but you know what I mean.
I appreciate that. That really encompasses, we have, you know, what we call our big six. And our first one is actually a growth mindset and a sense of humor. And we think they go well together. And I think you're a great example of both of those, where you recognized, hey, there's things I can control and things I can't. I can't control that I have these illnesses. So I am going to move forward. And like you said, you're going to try and find the humor in it. And I think all of us here would probably agree that you find the humor. And sometimes it's kind of dark humor because that's how you go. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's a big one in helping us deal with the day-to-day struggles we have with our chronic illnesses.
I think too that with chronic illness, it's good to have creative outlets, because a lot of us lose our mobility or some extent of our mobility. And that means we've got a lot of quiet time. And sometimes that needs to be spent resting. But sometimes we've got quiet time where we don't have the energy to go and do something out and all of that. But we still have enough energy that we want to do something worthwhile. So with that in mind, you wrote a book.
Yes. Yes.
So you've written an inspiring book of poetry called Hana's Hope. Can you share with us what the inspiration for your book was?
Life. Just day-to-day living,
didn't you say, I think you told me at one point, didn't your granddaughter encourage you?
Yes. Joey told me, Grandma, you should write a book. So I did. And she said, you should publish. Because actually I've written books in art books and stuff for them with pictures and stuff. And I was reading one of my poems that I had written to her. And she's like, Grandma, you should publish a book with your poems. And so I did. And so now I call her my manager because she manages my writing.
He's a good kid. We love Joy. But I can honestly say, guys, I have benefited from, I should say. Hannah, she just writes little poems, and because we're friends, she will send them via text. And it's a nice kind of pick me up on a hard day, because she's usually got a really, really good, hopeful attitude in the way that she writes, while still being very real about the tough stuff that's going on. So with that in mind, do you mind sharing with our listeners? You can hold up your book and show them, and share a favorite poem that is especially meaningful to you. Yeah, keep holding it up when it's there in a second. But also, right, if you want to give us, like, when you're sharing it, if you don't mind sharing the context or the background behind the poem as well, that would be lovely.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to share with you, but I'm going to use my copy that they send me for proofing, because I already have it marked in this one. I'll share with you so I wrote a poem called Pain, Pain. And I was just having a really tough time with pain that day. And like when I talk to my kids and stuff, and they'll ask me, oh, Mom, how you doing? Oh, Arthur's bugging me really bad today. And it's a joke between me and them. Arthur is not a person, it's arthritis. And so I was having a lot of pain that day. And so I wrote the poem. But it says, pain, pain, go away. Don't come back another day. How I wish you were far away, yet you are here, keeping me near. I don't like you, not one bit. Do you hear? How I wish you'd go away and not come back, never stay. You bug me constantly throughout each day. Can you not see I don't wish to play? So leave my life, oh please, I pray. Alas, it seems you're here to stay. I won't succumb, I will smile and say, what a good and glorious day. You can hurt me, this is true, yet I will not let you have your way. So despite you, I will smile and sing and be happy about everything. Because of you, I have learned a lot. I have gained blessings I would not have sought. Because I knew not their value before you came. Now I do, so they are my aim. Thank you, pain, since you won't leave. I will change my life's tapestry with a different weave. So no matter what, I will live on. I will live better, this is no con. I will grow stronger and hide you well. No one will know I'm under your spell. I will do my best and you will see. I will win against you triumphantly. So though I sing this song a bit, I will persevere. I won't throw a fit. So just for now, let me sing, so that my fighting courage this song will bring. Pain, pain, go away. Don't come back another day. And that's the end.
That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing with us, Hannah. I think that finding a creative outlet when we are struggling helps to ease the struggle. It helps to make things a little more bearable. So if there was one thing that you would love to have people take away from your book, what is it? What's the lesson you'd like them to learn?
That there's always hope and that they're not alone. We're not perfect, none of us, and we all have our issues and our things that we're dealing with. And life is a journey, and it's full of many different adventures, and our struggles are just some of the adventures. And I know for me, if I look at it as an adventure and not, oh, I'm being punished, it makes a world of difference. I mean, climbing up a mountain sometimes can feel like a punishment, but when you think, no, this is an adventure, you realize, okay, yeah, I'm not being punished. It's an adventure. So then it becomes a better thing and not a bad thing.
That is a great way to look at it. Again, totally encompassing that whole growth mindset thing that it's, and I think it's interesting because we talk about the line between growth mindset and toxic positivity. And I love that you are on the growth mindset side. Like, you are completely aware of the reality of the pain and everything that goes into it. And you're choosing to say, you know what? I'm not going to let that take over my life. I know it's there. It's not going away. It's going to stay there. But I'm going to move on, and I'm going to find things that I am excited about, things that I love, and I'm going to move forward. And I think that's great. So with that in mind as well, on your tough days, you've got your creative outlet, but are there other things in your life that keep you hopeful?
Yeah, my grandkids.
Your grandkids are great.
And seeing them when they're older and being there for them, getting their hugs and having them tell me, "You're doing great, Grandma. You're the best, Grandma." It just, with them, I'm a superstar, and it never hurts to be a superstar because that keeps you motivated to keep going because you want to shine bright for them. And you want to show them that there's no stopping you, and that when they come into hard things in their life, don't give up. Just keep moving forward and do what you got to do. And Grandma did it, so I can too. I want them to see that. I want them to know that and never doubt it. Like, I always tell them our family motto is never give up. Like, I'll ask them, what's our family motto? And they know, never give up. Yep, that's right. And so I'm doing my best to prove that to them and to give them an example of that so that no matter what they face in the future, okay, I can't give up. I got to keep moving. I got to keep doing this. I got to keep moving forward. This is the right path that I'm on. So I just got to keep at it and not give up. Because if we give up, we cheat ourselves of so many things. And it's sad. It's really sad.
It is. And I think one of the things, and I think another thing that people obviously, because they haven't met you yet, but I think that you've mastered too, is the art of not giving up, but also knowing when you need to rest. Because I think sometimes people out there, when they're struggling with chronic illness, they feel like if they need to take that break and they need to rest to heal their body, they feel like they're giving up. And I feel like, being your friend and seeing how you handle things over this year, I feel like you are a master of recognizing, I don't feel good. I know I'm in a flare or whatever, and I need to rest to recover. And that doesn't mean I'm giving up. That means I'm actually doing a positive thing. I'm helping heal my body so that I can continue moving forward.
Yeah. In fact, when I was in my 20s and my boys were really small, I had the mindset, oh, I got to keep going, I got to keep going. And I didn't allow myself to rest. And I ended up having to take an emergency trip to my doctor. And I found out that I almost killed myself because of overexhaustion. I didn't know you could die from overexhaustion until that happened. And my doctor told me, she knew about my promise to my boys, and she knew how I felt in regards to my kids. And she's like, if you're really going to be there for them when they grow up, you can't do this. And that's when it hit me how important taking a rest is. That if I'm going to be here tomorrow, I have to do what my body needs me to do today. And that was when it just in my face, hit me like a ton of bricks or a ton of Mr. Good bars. Nah. Do what you got to do.
I love that. I love your sense of humor. It brings me a lot of joy because I know that it comes from a place of just goodness. And so thank you for being that. Thank you for being who you are. We really appreciate you. All right. If you could give advice to someone who has recently been diagnosed with RA, what is the one important takeaway you would give them?
I'll tell you another story. When how long ago was that? Like maybe 20 years or more. In our ward, there was a young man that he got diagnosed with diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis like the same time. And his mom knew that his mom and his sister knew that older sister knew I had issues with multiple things. And so they said, could you come and talk to him? Because he's being really depressed and we can't get him out of the depression. We need help. Can you come and talk to him? And so I did. And they made it like they were just inviting us over for dinner. And we got there and he was just on the couch with a blanket and you could tell he was really depressed. And I went over and at that time I could walk. So I went over and I just plopped down on the couch with him, even though he's like pulled his feet back really quick because I sat down right where his feet were. And he looks at me kind of funny. And I was like, here, you got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah, I have it too. I've had it since I was 12. What? You were younger than me when you got diagnosed? Yeah. And I don't remember everything we said, but I remember when I got there, he was feeling like his whole life had ended. And when I left, he was feeling like, you know what? This is another adventure. I can do this. It's just, I do it different now. And I think that's what I would want everyone to know is getting a diagnosis of different health issues or change your life like these that you guys talk about do. It's not the end of the world. It's just the start of a new adventure where you do things differently. Your life is different, but it's not the end. It's just the start of a new adventure. And that's what I would want people to know.
I love that so much because I think that people see it as a hard stop instead of okay, you've been traveling this path and maybe it looks a lot more exciting, but this path over here also has a beautiful view and a lot of gorgeous vistas. And you're going to see amazing things that you never would have seen on the other path. And you're going to meet amazing people that you would never have met on the other path.
I was always a doer, even when I was little. And I was always taking care of other people, helping other people. And then I realized more and more I couldn't do what I used to do. And that was my identity. That was who I was in my mind. And so then when I couldn't do tons, I felt like I just lost my identity because I'm like, okay, now who am I? and that happened after I got in the wheelchair because I was more dependent on other people. I couldn't just do everything on my own. And I realized that my health issues are actually a blessing in disguise, because if I had been allowed to just be healthy and do everything like I'd always done, I'd be going so fast, there would be a lot I would miss. There would be people that need a comforting hand or just an ear to listen to or a shoulder to cry on that I would have missed. I wouldn't have seen them because I'd be moving too fast. And so I feel like, in a sense, it was a blessing in that it was like, slow down, smell the flowers, look around a little bit, pay attention, notice things you wouldn't otherwise. And in that way, it was a huge blessing. And I realized, oh, this isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing. I'm going even slower, but you know what? I can notice a whole lot more that I would have missed otherwise.
Very true. And I can attest that Hana is still a help people out and do wonderful things, even though she might be limited physically. Many people, aside from me, but many of her friends have benefited from whether it's her sweet texts that she sends, or she's also an excellent letter writer. Like, she is really good with the snail mail, which is, I swear, a dying art, but she sends sweet little cards out to people all the time and really just has kept that spirit of giving. And just like you said, it's recognizing that sometimes you have to change the way you do things, but it's not, like Stacy said, a hard stop. It's just a little bit of a detour, and you just have to change the way you're doing it.
Yep.
So, Hana, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your wisdom and your heart. Before we go, can you tell people the best place to find Hana's Hope?
On Amazon.
Okay.
But make sure you look up make sure you look up this H.J. Birch, because if you type in Hana's Hope, you'll get a bunch of weird stuff. But if you type in H.J. Birch there, then you're going to get my book. It'll be right on top.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hana, your story of resilience is really inspiring to us, and we're grateful for your encouragement, not that you've only given to us, but to our audience as well. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to our episode of Autoimmune Adventures. Thank you for joining us. We're so grateful to have you as part of our community. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little encouragement on their own journey. You can find more resources, past episodes, and inspiration at our website at autoimmuneadventures.com. And as always, remember, you are worthy of joy. Your disease does not define your life. You do.